There's this very specific feeling, and I think a lot of us have had it, even if we can't quite put a name to it. It's that sensation of walking into a room, maybe a classroom or a meeting, and you just realize that, while you're there, you're also sort of hovering on the outside. You're straddling two worlds, but you don't really belong to either one.
It's the threshold experience.
Yeah.
You're literally standing in the doorway, neither fully in nor fully out. And, well, that can be incredibly isolating, but it's also, in a way, a position of real insight. You see things that the people who are comfortably inside the room just never notice.
That tension, exactly. The loneliness versus the perspective. That's what we're digging into today. We are doing a deep dive on Reflections of Jasmine by Kira Tanaka. Now, on the surface, this is a young adult novel. But looking at the reviews, our sources, treating it as just a teen book feels like a huge mistake.
Oh, I completely agree. The source material we're working with actually calls it a masterpiece, which, is not a word critics just throw around in this genre. It frames the story less as a coming-of-age tale and more as an exploration of what it calls cultural duality.
Right. And it's about the labor of defining home when the standard definition just doesn't fit you. And the setup here is so important to understanding that we're not in some generic high school. We're in Nara Prefecture, Japan. For anyone not deep into Japanese geography, Nara isn't just a city, it's the ancient capital, steeped in history, temples, tradition.
It's heavy.
It's heavy. The source calls it a colorful backdrop, but that feels too light. It feels more like a presence.
It's weighty, yes.
Yeah.
Nara represents this established, solidified identity, centuries of it. And then, into the middle of all that, you drop the protagonist, Jasmine. She's a high school student described as spirited and vibrant, but, and this is the key, she's Nigerian Japanese.
So right away, visually and culturally, she is the contrast to her entire environment. You've got the rigid, ancient preservation of Nara on one side, and then you have Jasmine, who embodies this fluid, intersecting identity on the other.
And that's the central friction of the story. The review points out that she feels caught between two cultures. And just think about the pressure of that specific setting in a place that really values continuity, homogeneity. Standing at the intersection of Nigerian and Japanese heritage isn't just a fun fact about her. It's a constant negotiation of her very existence.
The source mentions she carries the weight of societal expectations. I found that phrasing really interesting because it implies the pressure isn't always malicious. It's just heavy. It's the expectation to fit into a box that she physically and culturally just overflows.
That's a great distinction to make because so often in these stories, we look for a clear villain, right? A bully, a mean teacher. But the source suggests the antagonist here is much more subtle. It's the insecurities and the general struggle of fitting in. She's navigating adolescence, which is a nightmare for everyone, while also trying to reconcile two completely different cultural scripts.
And usually when teenagers feel that kind of pressure, they retreat. They try to become invisible. But what I love about the profile we have of Jasmine is that she goes in the other direction entirely. She has a dream, and it's a surprisingly specific one. She doesn't just want to be accepted. She wants to open a salon.
The salon. This is my favorite part of the whole analysis.
It's so distinct, right? Why a salon? Why not a cafe or a bookstore or something?
Well, let's think about what a salon actually is. It's a place of transformation. It's a place where we curate how we present ourselves to the world. And for a mixed-race girl in a largely homogeneous society, her appearance is often the very battleground where she has to fight for acceptance. Hair, skin, style. These are not neutral topics.
Oh, wow. So by wanting to own the salon, she's taking control of the battlefield.
Precisely. The source is very clear that this isn't just a business plan. The salon is meant to be a unique space that reflects her personal vision and cultural identity. It's a physical manifestation of her internal self. She realizes, I think, that since the world hasn't built a space that fits her,
She has to build it herself.
she has to pour the concrete and build it herself, yes.
That concept, building your own space, is so powerful. It's basically the search for a third place. It's not home, it's not school. It's a place where you get to set the rules.
And where you are the norm, not the exception. The salon is her attempt to make her internal reality external. If she can build this space, she proves that her identity is valid. It's her way of saying, I exist and I am taking up space.
But the review makes a really important point, that this journey isn't some fairy tale. It avoids the typical cliches. We've all read those stories where the outsider gives a big speech and suddenly everyone claps and racism is over.
The magic solution trope.
Yeah, right. But the commentary in our source explicitly praises Tanaka for avoiding that. The struggle is described as feeling real and relatable.
Which implies that it's messy. Identity formation is never a straight line. You don't just wake up one day and say, okay, I am fully integrated now.
Yeah.
The source says she deals with insecurities. That points to moments of failure, moments where she probably tries to reject one side of her heritage to please the other. Deep doubt.
It really elevates the genre, doesn't it? It moves it from melodrama to something that feels more like a documentary of a soul.
It really does. And that brings us back to that idea of cultural duality the review mentioned. The book is praised for providing a rich narrative on this topic.
I want to dig into who that narrative is actually for, because obviously if you're Nigerian, Japanese, or mixed race in any context, this book is a mirror. It's validation.
Representation is survival. It really is. Seeing your specific, nuanced struggle on a page tells you that you're not alone, you're not crazy, but the review argues it's just as important for the reader who doesn't have that background.
The window versus the mirror.
Exactly. For the monocultural reader, this book is an education in empathy. It forces you to sit with the discomfort of being in between. The source says it allows readers to appreciate what it means to live between cultures. It breaks down that wall of otherness.
Okay, so we've talked about her internal struggle and the external pressure of Nara, but Jasmine isn't doing this alone in a vacuum. The review highlights a whole tapestry of relationships that ground her, and I think this is where the book really finds its heart. It's not a lone wolf story.
No, and it shouldn't be. You can't form an identity in isolation. You need feedback. You need a support system to bounce your developing self off of.
Let's start with the brother, Tiger.
Tiger.
First of all, great name, but the dynamic there seems really specific. The review describes his support as unwavering.
Well, there's something so specific about a sibling bond in a mixed heritage family. Tiger shares Jasmine's DNA. He shares that exact cultural cocktail of being Nigerian and Japanese in Nara. He's the only other person on Earth who understands exactly what her home life and her public life feel like.
He's her baseline.
He's the anchor, yeah. Unwavering implies that while Jasmine is sort of spinning out, trying to figure out her salon, Tiger is the constant. But then you have Yuki and Hana, her friends.
Who are described as fiercely loyal.
Yes, but here's the nuance that the review picks up on. These aren't just, yes men. The source notes that the book shows both the support and the challenges that often accompany deep connections.
That's such a crucial detail, because sometimes even your best friends, if they don't share your background, they can say the wrong thing. They have blind spots.
Oh, absolutely. Fiercely loyal doesn't mean perfectly understanding. It means they show up, even when it's hard. Authentic friendship, especially across cultural lines, involves friction. It involves saying, I don't get why this hurt you, but I'm here anyway. The review praises this authentic portrayal. It suggests Yuki and Hana are active participants in her growth, not just props. They challenge her, and she challenges them.
It's the difference between a support system that just coddles you and one that actually helps you grow. The expert note says this system is essential during the turbulent years of self-discovery. You need people who will let you be messy.
And who will remind you of who you are when you forget. That's what Tiger, Yuki, and Hana seem to do. They're the scaffolding that lets Jasmine build her salon.
We've talked a lot about the themes, but I want to touch on the execution, because you can have the most profound themes ever, but if the writing is dry, nobody's going to stick around. So what's the verdict on Kira Tanaka's actual prose?
It's glowing. The review gives it a 4.5 out of 5, calls it a masterpiece. But more specifically, they describe the writing as engaging and accessible with a conversational tone.
Accessible is such a key word there. Sometimes when authors tackle these big, heavy topics, the writing gets really dense. It can feel like a lecture.
Right. But Tanaka seems to understand that to get the reader to engage with the pain, you have to make the reading experience pleasurable. The source highlights her descriptive prose. We mentioned Nara earlier. The writing apparently puts you right in the city. You can feel the humidity, see the temples, smell the street food.
Immersive.
Totally immersive. And the pacing seems to be a major strength. The review mentions a balance between dialogue and narration, and this is the really hard part, reflection and action.
That reflection versus action balance is where so many books fall apart, because this is a book about an internal journey. There's a real danger of Jasmine just sitting in her room thinking for 10 chapters.
Exactly. Internal monologue is important, but it's static. Jasmine has to do things, plan the salon, talk to Tiger, run into conflict. The review notes Tanaka manages this mix so the reader never feels overwhelmed or rushed. The story moves.
And the review mentions humor. which I think is vital.
It's absolutely essential. The source notes a knack for combining humor with poignant moments.
Which is just realistic, isn't it? Even when you're having a full-blown identity crisis. You still trip over your own feet. You still have awkward moments with crushes.
Humor is a coping mechanism, especially for marginalized groups.
Yeah.
If you couldn't laugh at the absurdity of the expectations placed on you, you'd just crumble. The fact that the book creates space for laughter actually makes the poignant moments hit that much harder. It creates contrast.
It makes the book feel like life, not like a tragedy.
Which leads to who this book is actually for. The review recommends it for teenagers, obviously. It's YA. But there is a specific call-out for another group.
Adults reflecting on their journey.
Yes. And I think that's a massive audience.
I feel like that's most adults I know. We're all just taller teenagers trying to figure out if we fit in.
Well, think about the inner child concept. Reading a book like this as an adult lets you retroactively process your own adolescence. You see Jasmine wrestling with these huge questions of self-worth and heritage, and you have a compassionate response to her. And in doing that, you can't help but extend that same compassion to your younger self.
It's retroactive healing. You watch her build her salon and you realize, hey, I can still build mine.
Exactly. It's not just a story about a teen girl. It's a story about the human condition. The review sums it up beautifully with the line that our differences can unite us.
That phrase, our differences can unite us, can sound a bit like a bumper sticker if you don't really unpack it. But in the context of this book, what does it actually mean?
I think it means the struggle for identity is universal, even if the details are specific. You might not be a Nigerian Japanese girl in Nara. You might be a guy from Ohio or a woman from London. But that feeling of difference, the feeling of carrying a personal vision that doesn't quite match the societal expectations, we all share that.
So by reading about Jasmine's specific difference, we connect to our own.
And we connect to each other. We realize that everyone is carrying a hidden salon inside of them, a version of themselves they're afraid to show the world.
Which brings us to the big takeaway. We've looked at the setting, the conflict, the support system, the style, but we always like to leave you with something to actually work on, a question to carry with you.
We have to go back to the salon.
The salon.
In the book, Jasmine's salon is her proof of existence. It's the physical space where she doesn't have to explain herself or code switch or shrink. It is a manifestation of her soul.
So here is the question for you listening right now. We all live under the weight of expectations from our jobs, our families, our culture. But if you could clear away all of that noise, what is the salon you are trying to build?
It doesn't have to be a building. It could be a creative project, a relationship dynamic, a community you're trying to create. What is the structure you are building that allows you to say, this is who I am and I am here?
Are you still trying to squeeze into a room that was never built for you, or are you grabbing the hammer and nails to build your own?
That's the work. That's the real journey.
Something to think about this week. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Always a pleasure.
We'll catch you on the next one.